Good morning. Welcome to Dharma Sunday, everybody. I wonder if there's a way to, again, change the view so that I can see who is here on. Thank you. Hi, everybody. You're being waved at by everybody here. And if you're online and you want the speaker view, you can go, because I think when I ask to see everybody, it maybe changes your view. I don't know, but if you want to go to the upper right-hand corner, you can choose speaker view instead of gallery view if you want. I discovered recently that some people didn't know how to do that. My mother. Yes. She kept saying, it was so hard to see you up there. You just is this little tiny square. I was like, speaker view, speaker view. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Wonderwell, those of you who are here on this gorgeous late summer day. For those of you who drove here, I mean, it's really outrageously gorgeous at the moment. We're peak weekend, I would say. I mean, there's more to come because of the oaks, and I hope everyone at home that you're also enjoying a late summer day or maybe an early fall day, depending on how it is wherever you are. Is there anyone here who's never been to a Dharma Sunday here? Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Let me just explain the order of business, which is pretty simple. We're going to start with some meditation. I'll lead a guided meditation, and then we'll take, it'll be about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll take a break for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and I'll share some thoughts with all of you, and then I'll open it up for conversation, questions, comments, dialogue, hopefully, and connection. What? And after that, we have here at Wonderwell, we have a potluck lunch. And so everyone, whether you brought something or not, you are more than welcome to stay. There's always plenty. So please join us and enjoy getting to know each other. And by the way, I'm Liz. I always forget that part. I'm Liz. I'm one of the teachers here at Wonderwell and Natural Dharma Fellowship. And so this is my Dharma home. And it's always a joy to be here with everybody. So we're going to start with some practice. And, in the Buddhist tradition and in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we often do start with some prayers, which are really little mini practices. So I'm going to give my little spiel about that. And then we'll do a couple of prayers from the book, your prayer book, which is either next to you or on your seat. And on page 1, you'll see there's something called a prayer of refuge and universal love. Each of these little prayers is just like a mini practice, a little practice. And I think it's more helpful to think of them as practices than to think of them as prayers, although nothing wrong with thinking of them as prayers, but they're larger than, they're ways of connecting to the source of who we really are. So in this first prayer of refuge, the idea is that you are returning to a deep part of your own being, a part of you that is already awake, that is interconnected with everything else, that lies beneath the surface of the thinking mind, the habitual mind. So in the course of reciting this prayer, it's a way of reminding yourself that you are actually already a Buddha, by which I mean you are already a being that can manifest in the world with the capacities, um, the abilities, you could say, to feel compassion, to love other beings, to remember that you are not separate and isolated in some kind of contracted sense of self, at least not all the time. Underneath that is a vast field of interconnection that we will explore throughout the day today. So even though it's coached in these specific terms of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, really those are kind of code words for finding your own inner awakened being. So when you take refuge in the Buddha, you're taking refuge in your awakened heart and your essence. And the Buddha as a historical figure, as a inspiration for actualizing that in every moment. And then taking refuge in the Dharma has to do with taking refuge in the teachings that are all around us all the time to help us remember who we really are. And then taking refuge in the Sangha is taking refuge in the community of others who are also on a path to awaken and to return to who they really are. So that's the first one. And then the second one, this pure perception and bodhicitta, is really just a confirmation of that, a kind of statement to oneself that, yes, I recognize this truth. Even if I don't feel it all the time, I aspire to know that. And then the other one we'll do is on the top of page 2, which is the 4 immeasurable aspirations. And this is a prayer really that is to awaken our capacity to be of benefit. And so it's suggesting that we have the power to offer energy into the world that can change the way things are, actually. Not the way they really are, but can change the sort of surface misunderstandings and confusions that are out there. That the effort to send these aspirations into the world is a way of extending that energy into the world. And it makes a difference. It may not seem like it, but the more we come into a recognition that every single thing we do is like like dropping a stone into a pool of water and the ripples spread out. And that can happen with just a single thought, as well as with speech and action. So in this case, we use speech and we try to generate the sense of longing or aspiration that what's stated in this little prayer could actually take place, could actually occur. Okay, so we're going to start with that, and then I will, from there, guide you through a practice together. And here at Wonderwell, we're a Tibetan Buddhist center, so the first, there are some things that don't really look like English, and they're not. That's Tibetan. And so we do chant the Tibetan because it's a way of staying connected to the lineage through which these teachings have come down to us. So you're welcome to join along with that or not, depending on how you feel. But there's a little tune that goes with the first one and the third one. So. Sanje chudang sochi chonam la changche pardu dani chabsuchi Daki Jinso Jipe Sonam Chi Drola Penchir Sanjay Druparsho. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightened. By the power of generosity and the other perfections, may we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. I and all beings are primordially Buddha. Knowing this to be true, I am aligned with supreme enlightened mind. Sem Chen Tam Che Dewa Dang Dewe Juda Den Par Jur Chi Dug Nya Dang Dug Nya Ji Ju Da Drelwar Jur Chi Dug Nya Me Pe Dewa Dampa Dang Min Drelwar Jur Chi Nyering Chak Dang Dang Drelwe Tang Nyom Se Me Pala Ne Par Jur Chi. May all beings possess happiness and the inner causes of happiness. May all beings be free from sorrow and the inner causes of sorrow. May all beings remain undivided from the sacred joy which is free from sorrow. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity beyond attachment or aversion to friends, enemies, or strangers. Okay, so to start our practice now, just take a moment to find a comfortable position, whatever that is for you this morning. And you can trust that if you allow your body to begin to settle into its own place, that it will find a place of rest. Just take a moment to feel into your body's position and to kind of relax inside, relax within. And I really invite you at this moment to close your eyes so as to better feel into the body. And we'll take a few deep cleansing breaths just as a way to relax even more into the feeling of the body. So breathing in a long, deep inhale down into the body, feeling the belly expand, and then on the exhale, releasing and relaxing, letting the muscles drop down. Another long, deep inhale. And then on the exhale, it's your trigger to just let go into the feeling of the body. And another one. letting your attention move gently down through the body until you come to rest with whatever sensation you notice at the base of the body, where the body meets the cushion or the chair. And really let your attention sink into that sensation. It might just be a sensation of pressure or warmth. And see how much you can actually dissolve right into that sensation. And let that be the location where your attention rests. And let that also be the place where you relax into being simply present with this one sensation. And then sensing even further down through this sensation at the base of the body, down into the earth below. Feeling into the body's natural, easeful groundedness. And even if you're just imagining that sense of extension down into the earth, let yourself go with that imagining that you're always connected to the earth. Through gravity, and through your innate being, of sensing down into the earth. And then from this place of groundedness, take a moment to ask yourself, how am I right now? You can just do a little bit of a evaluation of your physical experience, your emotional experience in this moment, your mental experience. Just noticing what's present for you at this moment. And knowing that whatever is here for you right now is your working ground. It's the arena of your own awakening, so you don't have to change any part of your experience. Just let it all be right here, right now. Whether you notice emotions of maybe happiness, sadness, grief, joy. Maybe you're agitated or calm. Each of these experiences are the energy of your own awakening, the portal. So just let them be here as they are. And now also become more consciously aware of the feeling of your breath, and specifically the feeling of the body breathing, the breath flowing into the body and the breath flowing out of the body. Really noticing the sensations you experience as the breath comes into the body and as it flows out of the body. Recognizing this flow of air as the interface between the seemingly outer world and the inner world. Every breath that you breathe out is breathed in by the trees, the plants, and every breath they breathe out is breathed in by you. And see how much you can stay present with the feeling of the body breathing. And if you get taken away by thoughts, let that feeling of the body breathing draw you back into union with it. Let it draw you back into union with the whole world. Now allow your awareness to expand so that you begin to become aware of your senses. And starting with the sense of hearing, become aware of whatever sounds are occurring in your environment. And see if you can resist the urge to label whatever you notice. Just becoming aware of sound. And becoming aware of smell. Might be very subtle, maybe nothing at all, but just opening up that sense. And likewise with taste, it might be a lingering flavor of something in your mouth, your coffee or tea, or maybe just the taste of your own saliva. Just noticing. And becoming aware of sensations beyond the sensations at the base of the body or the breath. Noticing other sensations on the body, the feeling of the air against your skin or the cloth from your clothing. Feeling your embodiment. And then allowing your eyes to open, could just be a little bit, and let in some light, some color and shape, but keeping that gaze very soft, unfocused. And how much can you relax in the center of this field of your experience without getting involved in any part of it. You're just aware. And notice that in the midst of this awareness of everything that's unfolding in your experience, your sounds, sensations, visual forms, that there's no separation. You are all of that, and all of that is you. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. Please, here at Wonderwell, we'll stay in silence for the break, but help yourself to some tea. Go feel the warmth of the sun, and we'll be back at 11 together. See you shortly. Oh, location of the bathrooms. So there, for Wonderwell folks, there's a bathroom right outside this main door to the hall, directly down the hall to the right. You can also go over to the back corner of the building behind the living room. There is another bathroom back there. There are actually a ton of bathrooms in this house. If you want to wander around, you can find one. Everybody back? Can you hear me all right? Okay, everybody online? You can hear me? Okay. So this morning is a continuation of a series that I've been offering that I'm calling Forest Teachings. This is part 2. And a month ago, we talked about, or I should say, I ended the session with homework, asking people to begin to explore in their own lives ways of discovering our connection with everything, with the natural world, with the environment. And so today I'm going to continue along that theme. And because I'm coming from the perspective that we need at this moment in time on this planet, that we need a new way of being in relationship. And maybe, and actually it's not a new way at all. It's a very ancient way. But we need to rediscover this capacity of being in relationship that is healing and that is outside of I guess I'll say outside of the box of well, how do I want to say this? I think what I want to say is that cultivating a way of being and doing in the world today that is not arising from the same sources that we've been accessing or that we've been kind of habituated into over the last couple of 100 years, which is primarily this mentality. And it's a mentality, it really is a way of thinking about reality, thinking about ourselves, thinking about our relationships, our relationship with each other, our relationship with the non-human world. That there's been well, we see the results, right, of this extractive, materialist, consumerist mentality and what that's led to and what we're facing as a result of that. And there's a lot of effort out there to do something different and to change our situation and to find some healing for ourselves and our planet and all the beings in it. And yet it feels to me that if those impulses are coming out of the same way of being in relationship, that we won't be as successful as we'd like to be. Maybe we're not going to be successful, but I think we should still try something different here. And for me, that has come alive through a couple of questions that I keep bringing up again and again, which is, who are we really? And why are we here? Here as on the planet. Why are we here on the planet? Why are human beings on this planet? Really? And was it really to make this much of a mess? I don't think that's why why the universe gave rise to the human species. And what do we need to do to remember who we really are? How do we learn to listen beyond this mental plane, this thinking mind? Because that's been the primary modality of interaction that has been valued and raised up as superior to other ways of being. Nothing wrong, right, with the thinking mind. We need our thinking mind. We need our capacity to articulate thoughts and concepts and be in communication in that way. But if that's only, I think we've lost touch with the source that could give rise to a more creative and interwoven experience with everything that we're engaged with. So I've become really interested in what it would mean to begin to explore the other capacities that we have as human beings to be in relationship with ourselves, with each other, with the non-human world. And as the way I wrote the little description for this morning, I said something about, what does it mean to begin to immerse the small self, the self that is the thinking self, the contracted self of I, me, and mine, into the vaster field of interbeing or of energy that is always entwining us and sustaining us all the time. How do we actually return to a place of interbeing that could become the source, that is the source really for manifesting in the world with a different focus, a different recognition of the sacredness and the value of the living world. A perspective that's not coming out of a materialist, consumerist, extractive mentality. And I think this isn't so much about emotional feeling or even necessarily about physical sensations, because I keep talking about, feeling, but I'm not just talking about our emotional feeling, although that could be part of it, or about our physical sensations, although those are also part of it. But instead, I mean feeling in the sense of an extension into time and space, a remembering that is not conceptual of our interconnectedness with everything. And I think that, actually there are quite a few people on the planet at this time who are engaging in this kind of practice and in this kind of remembering. This is not an isolated phenomena in any way or an isolated approach. And in fact, it's a very ancient approach. And I think the easiest access point for us in beginning to remember this interbeing is in tuning back into the living presence of the natural world. For thousands of years, human beings experience the world as sentient, as alive. It's only in the last couple hundred years that we turned from that relationship. Everything was understood to be alive everything was experienced as alive, and not just as alive, but as communicating. The mountains, the lakes, the trees, the flowers, the ground, the earth, the elements. Um, there's something about places, environments that I think we could all agree there's a sensuality, there's something inherently sensual about place. Um, Places can be felt as presences. When you go into a place that you love, even if it's your backyard, there's a sense of presence there that you connect to. There's a communication there. There's a recognition of interbeing that we can cultivate and bring more into the foreground of our experience. No matter what our ancestry is, we all originate from cultures and societies that once assumed a deeply rich and living communion with the earth. It was inherently part of our ancestral lineage, every one of us. Even if at this point we may have forgotten how to listen to the aliveness of the world, we still have that capacity. We all have that capacity. It's embedded in our cellular and genetic makeup. It's part of who we are. And because of that, then we can awaken those sleeping memories, right? We can return to a vital and an interactive relationship with the living world. And why? I mean, if it's necessary to even say why, I mean, it may be completely obvious, but what would be the purpose in turning our attention and our practice in this direction? You know, can we return to a recognition of sacred relationship that would be powerful enough to make a difference in this world that seems to be sort of self-destructing? Not the world, but, well, what human beings have given rise to. And I think unless we try, we're not going to know, right? But it seems to be that there is this growing attention and effort among many people to return to our indigenous roots. And I'm going to use that word in a very universal way, right? I'm not referring to any particular tribal group when I'm using this word indigenous. I'm looking at it from its etymological roots. And the roots of that word mean sprung from the earth. Sprung from the earth. And so in that sense, every being, human or non-human, right, has indigenous roots. It's the part of us that knows and has always expected on some level to be in sacred relationship with the earth, with the living world. And even if that part has been sort of buried and forgotten, it's still there, and we can awaken those memories if we choose to. For me, this focus is nothing new, but my understanding and articulation of it has grown and changed over the years. Even when I was a young girl, I always felt that something was missing in the way I was seeing my family, my parents, my friends, my friends' parents, the way I saw people living. And I really yearned for something. I didn't know really what, but I felt like something was missing. And the way I found what was missing was that I was very privileged to be able to spend a lot of time in the natural world. And that was where I really felt like I had a home and I was safe and I could be exactly as I was, that I was held in acceptance and okayness, which I really didn't feel in many other places in my life, my home life and my school life. But there was something about just going out into the forest or up into the mountains that was such a refuge. And over the years, in continuing to explore that, I immersed myself more and more and more in the natural world through a variety of different ways. Long solo backpacking trips, long meditation retreats in little cabins in the woods. And I feel like slowly the memories of how to be in that kind of interconnection have awoken more and more. I mean, there's always more to do. And I think some of you know that I'm now working more consciously with plant medicines and energies to continue that exploration. So one of the things that's become clearer to me is that the more that we tune into our own living energy as we experience it in the body, the more we are opening our capacity to recognize our interrelationship with everything around us, with the living world, and to really remember this truth of who we really are and why we're here. And in remembering that truth, or beginning to remember that truth, then I at least have started to see, and I know this is true for other people because I've had some wonderful conversations about this, that the Dharma that I was seeking, at least as a Buddhist practitioner, this word Dharma, first of all, maybe I should say something about this word Dharma. It's a Sanskrit word. Actually, what it means is just truth. It means the truth. And it's often used to refer to the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, the truth that the Buddha taught. But the term itself is bigger than that. And it's actually referring to a much vaster truth. It is the truth that the Buddha taught. The Buddha recognized that truth and then taught a huge variety of skillful means to return to that truth, to awaken to that truth. And in my experience, at least, and this is not to in any way say that this kind of path doesn't exist in other spiritual traditions, because all spiritual traditions, I think, are aiming at discovering this truth, and all have different skillful means for accessing that. I'd happen to know the Buddhist path maybe the best because I've spent the most time with it, but these days I'm really wondering whether I am still interested in identifying as a Buddhist. Am I a Buddhist? For a long time, that was kind of important to me because it announced sort of my manner of being in the world and my values, and I somehow wanted that to be kind of front and center. I wanted to be identified, or I wanted to identify myself in that way. The self is always, trying to find something to latch onto and say, this is me. But now it seems to me that the Dharma that we need is the Dharma of things as they are, the real, the Dharma with a capital D, the truth of this truth that is non-sectarian, it's non-religious, it's non-localized, it's available and present at every moment of our lives. It's always there. It's the Dharma the truth. It's the Dharma of the rain, the Dharma of the wind, the fire, the earth, the Dharma of the trees, the Dharma of the plants, the Dharma of this animal body that we inhabit for such a short time. And this Dharma is presenting its teachings to us from the moment we take our first breath all the way through this life and through our death as well and into the next life. It's always presenting its teachings to us. In the very experience of being born and dying, it's presenting its teachings to us. So at this point, I'm starting to feel like I want to be a student of the truth of things as they are. And how that's accessed is important and not as important. Because actually our lives themselves are going to teach us those truths, no matter what spiritual path we choose. If we're open to that, if we're aware of that, if we're paying attention. But I feel inspired these days to be a student of the teachings of the living world. And to learn how to listen and receive through a variety of places and practices that may not know anything about the Buddhist path. So part of what I'm sharing today is just my sense of how we might, that it really doesn't matter what our spiritual tradition is, if we're beginning to reconnect with the wisdom and the teachings of the truth that is always around us. And this notion of retraining ourselves to release the small self into the vast self, which is one of the things I put in the description. I don't know if anybody read the description for this Dharma Sunday, but that was one of the things I talked about, was energetic immersion and what it would mean to release the small self into the vast self, the self of the world, the self of reality itself, which is not this personal, me-focused, me-concerned part. That part is there, nothing wrong with that part, but there's so much more to us. There's so much more to us. The part of us that is spread out everywhere, that is overflowing the boundaries of this idea of I and me and mine. How do we inhabit that larger self? How do we do that? How do we practice expanding our awareness of being beyond what is available to us just through our five senses even? Although our five senses are extremely helpful in this kind of a practice. But as we begin to practice to extend awareness beyond these seeming confines of the physical body, then we start to feel the more that we are. You can really actually feel that. And our senses help enormously with that kind of practice. And I'll be more specific as I go on here, but our senses, our sense perceptions, which are, really the primary interface with which we are in relationship with the world, right? We're either seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling our world. That's our general interface. But there's more than that that's going on in our experience of being and our relating with the phenomenal world. So maybe we could call that an energetic connection or an energetic interconnectedness, an intuitive awareness of more subtle energies or vibrations that we are embedded in. Historically, that's been called extrasensory perception. I remember ESP, ESP, which which actually has a kind of like there's a lot of skepticism, right, around ESP because it can't be proven by scientific method. This is the whole scientific materialist narrative that is so dominant today, which is just one narrative. It's a narrative. That's all it is. And there are a lot of other narratives. But extrasensory perception, or ESP, was this notion that sometimes it was described as the sixth sense, right? The sixth sense. And is usually relegated to the category of having like psychic abilities, where you can sense spirits or paranormal experiences, as if somehow this is like something that not everybody can do. You know, there are only a few special people who have this kind of capacity. But actually, there are a lot of people, many people, who assert that they have the capacity to sense beyond the material world, through the material world, deeper into the fabric of reality. You know, and you have to wonder, like, why should that be considered suspicious among human beings and not, for example, among animals? So there are all these amazing studies of animals who have these capacities that extend far beyond just their sensory interface. There are, like, I just think this is wonderful. Like, there are many animals that perceive and are aware of electric fields, like sharks, stingrays. A lot of aquatic animals are extremely sensitive to electric fields, and actually many human beings too are discovering that EMFs, you know, electromagnetic fields, significantly interfere with sleep, with their nervous system, with their ability to feel calm and settled, that we are actually very strongly affected by electromagnetic fields. And then, you know, migratory birds or sea turtles, they use the Earth's magnetic field, feeling into the Earth's magnetic field for navigation. Elephants have the capacity to communicate over long distances using this low frequency, they call it infrasound, that they can communicate with each other without being anywhere near each other. Bats, dolphins, right? They use these high frequency ultrasound energies or vibrations to navigate. You know, so in every one of those examples, there's this sensitivity that goes beyond the five senses alone. We're also animals. Human beings are animals. We have animal bodies. We have an animal body. I mean, we have more than that, of course, but we've forgotten the power that is inherent in the animal body, forgotten how to access it. I think maybe this is something we need to, that would help us. What would happen if we could cultivate our animal body abilities to begin to perceive the energies that are always around us and within us? You know, a lot of tribal people, indigenous people, from that particular way of using that word, they already intuitively feel themselves as intimately intertwined with the natural world. And I've been having these lovely conversations recently with a Navajo elder who was telling me that the Navajo word for hello, which I cannot pronounce, but what it means is, upon the surface of Mother Earth at this present moment, all is well. So when you say hello to another person, your relationship is around the presencing of being on the earth. Built into that word is this assumption of interconnectedness. And there's this term today too that is really kind of coming into the foreground of how many people have heard of eco-spirituality? Anybody? Eco-spirituality. So this eco-spirituality, it's a thing, and it refers to the energetic connection between humans and the living world and the environment, which is being understood more and more now as really critical for our survival and for the survival of the planet. And it's the notion that all living beings kind of share this biofield, they call it a biofield, which is a subtle electromagnetic field. And that allows for us to be in communication in a nonverbal way. I mean, anyone who's come to a retreat at Wonderwell, and we put you in noble silence, right, as soon as you get here. And sometimes people are like, well, how am I going to get to know anybody? And then you find at the end of 3 days or 5 days or 7 days of not talking, and you're finally allowed then to talk to each other, that you actually already know each other. And there hasn't been any verbal communication, or very little. So something else is happening there. And I think a lot of people are very familiar with this too in their relationships with pets, that pets are very sensitive to their owner's emotional states. And so if the owner is upset or nervous or going through a lot of turmoil, the pet really feels that and experiences that as well. Whereas if the owner has a more calm, gentle, positive energy, then that has a very therapeutic and grounding effect on the pet. How many people feel like they have noticed this with their pets? See? And now there are a lot of studies coming out that show that show scientifically, because we can't seem to let that narrative go. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just so dominant. That plants also possess different forms of sentience and intelligence. And I probably don't need to get into the long, there's a lot of literature out there now on this, the way trees communicate, the way the whole mycelial network is communicating. And I mean, there's some amazing sorts of insights that are coming now, which have always been there. And then there's some studies that are showing, or asserting at least that human beings are part of a larger universal consciousness, or sometimes it's called like a source energy that informs our relationship with the living world. And by aligning ourselves more with that universal source energy or flow, that we are developing this deeper and more sensual connection with the non-human world. It's like this whole embodied being that we are, each of us, it's like a tuning fork. And it's looking to be attuned. We're looking for attunement. But how do we make ourselves available for attunement? So I want to turn to just talking a little bit about how Tibetan Buddhism understands this kind of energetic interconnectedness, because this is a Tibetan Buddhist center. I guess I'm still sort of identifying as a Tibetan. I mean, of course I am. So the first teaching around this topic has to do with beginning to connect. So this is beginning to answer the question of how. How do we do this? And how many of you are familiar with the 4 foundations of mindfulness as one of the early Buddhist teachings? So there's mindfulness of the breath, there's mindfulness of the body, there's mindfulness of the mind, and there's mindfulness of phenomena. Mindfulness of the body. Actually, that's the first one. We have to start with mindfulness of the body. What does that actually mean? That means that we have to return to the feeling of our body that is underneath the ideas that we have about the body. And most of the time, the relationship we have to the body is conceptual. And we're not really even aware of that. But often we have concepts about our body, like, oh, my body is, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm weak, can't do that, I don't like my body, or my body has to stay young. I mean, we're also infused with ideas about what the body should be, how it shouldn't be, that come to us through the media and through just the proliferation of those ideas of what an ideal body would be like. And so that keeps us in this kind of surface conceptualized notion of body. And that has very little to do with an actual felt or experience of being embodied. So one of my teachers used to describe how we have to begin to drop down beneath that conceptual idea of the body into what he called the body body. Instead of the thought body, the body body. And that's a more direct felt experience of being embodied, of our sensuality, of our aliveness. And that how we do that is through practice. One of the ways, anyway. I mean, there are all kinds of ways. Yoga, anything that works with the body as a physical organ that puts you in the body and takes you out of the mind to some extent is a way of beginning to cultivate that body-body experience. But meditation, too, is a powerful way of doing that. It's this living body that is underneath the conceptual body, that is extended in time and space by virtue of the five senses and by virtue of its energetic field. We have an energy body. Part of our embodiment is an energetic field that is vibrating in connection with everything around it. And in Tibetan Buddhism, this is called it's called the energy body or the subtle body. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard these. I know a lot of you have heard these teachings already. But if you haven't, this is an interesting thing to explore, that the energy body, which is a subtler level of our embodiment than the coarse physical body, is always in motion. It's always flowing. It's always changing. It's a river of energy that is constantly flowing. And it even has a name. It even has a name, which is a big name, another Sanskrit name, which you don't have to remember. But I'll say what it is. Sambhoga Kaya. Kaya means body. Sambhoga actually means enjoyment. Enjoyment body. In other words, it's the body of energy. It's like and how many people here have ever had acupuncture? A lot of people have had acupuncture. Acupuncture works on an energy body. It works through energies that are running through the body. It helps the physical body, but it's targeting energetic pathways in the body and opening them up and allowing that energy to flow more easily without blockage. So the Sambhogakaya body, or the energy body in Tibetan Buddhism, is similar. There are a lot of similarities there. And if you are a Vajrayana practitioner, which the Vajrayana is one of the schools or the developments in Buddhism of a way of working with energy, actually. And so for those people who do practices that come out of that tradition, you're working with the energy body. That's your working ground. And you do that through visualization, through chanting mantras, and through physical movements, or what are called mudras. And maybe an easy example of this is if you chant a mantra. How many people have ever chanted a mantra? A lot of people. When you chant a mantra, you can feel the energy awakening in your body. It's not just something that happens in your mouth, right? It begins to awaken. Whatever the energy that mantra is associated with begins to awaken within you. And you can feel that. And the more you do it, the more you feel that. So in a way, the physical body, the form body, is a vessel and a transmitter of this energy body. And the energy body is a interface between the coarse physical sensory body and the most subtle body, which is this awareness, very subtle awareness of everything and every part of our being. So it's through this energy body that we can feel what I'm talking about as energetic immersion, right? This is a way of experiencing ourselves as inseparable. And there are a number of practices that can help strengthen this energy, our awareness of the energy body, so that we start to feel that interconnectedness, feel that we are energetically immersed in reality. All right, close your eyes. Can you still see the room around you? Somebody answer me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If you begin to extend your awareness, can you feel, and for folks at home, you may be by yourselves, but can you feel the walls around you or the other people who are near you? If you continue to extend your awareness, can you even feel the environment outside and the sky overhead and the earth below? I mean, it's actually pretty simple. You can open your eyes. It's actually pretty simple. We may have to imagine it at first, but we are embedded in an energetic field. So you can, and everybody is manifesting an energy. You can feel, that's why you can feel other people around you. The stones are radiating some kind of energy. The wood is radiating energy. The sky, I mean, it's everywhere. Slowing down and tuning in to that strengthens that capacity to hear in that way that we already have. And the more you do that, the more we slow down and just remember that the seeming idea that there's this separate situation here is just an idea. It's just a habit pattern, really, of contraction. Actually, we are extended continuously, which is why, if you're really sensitive, it can be very challenging to be in certain kinds of environments or to be around certain kinds of people. Have you ever had the experience of going into a room where an argument has been going on and you can just feel like, and all you kind of just want to turn around and walk back out of the room? You know, I experienced that a lot with my dad. My poor dad. But he has a lot of anger, and you know, it doesn't. There doesn't even have to be anyone else in the room with him. He can be having a fit about, I don't, who knows what, the computer, and it's just like the energy is, you know. And sometimes I think it is because we're so sensitive that we have tried to shut that down. Because how do you live in that kind of openness and sensitivity and not feel threatened? And you know, that is a powerful question for all of us, because if what's needed is an awakening and a return to the recognition that we really are not separate, then what do we need to cultivate internally as, you know, it's cultivate internally so that whatever it is that our energy is emitting invites ease, invites care, invites relaxation, invites love. If that's the energetic frequency that we're vibrating or emitting, that communicates. But finding that kind of stability in oneself is part of the path. And it really is where I feel, just in a biased sort of way, there are so many beautiful techniques in the Buddhist tradition for cultivating that ability to really to transform our energetic vibratory quality to the point where that is because that's our nature. That's actually what is really down there waiting to be emitted. So working through all of the obstacles to that is part of the Buddhist path. And I'm going to stop because I want to open this up, but I want to just share a couple other ideas of ways to enhance and strengthen this sensory and energetic interconnectedness. So one is just to practice in the natural world. Go outside and practice forest bathing. There's studies that show that forest bathing, have you guys heard of forest bathing? I think most people have now heard of forest bathing. Forest bathing increases the anti-cancer cells in our bodies by 50% every time we go and forest bathe. Like literally, there are now studies that show that. So, being in the environments that support our energy to relax and open, to ground us in the present moment, right? And the natural world is a great support for that. So when you're out in the natural world, pay attention to the colors, the sounds, the smells, the textures, the movements. Sit down and just do exactly what we did. Close your eyes and just feel. What do you feel? Hear, listen to the sounds and the smell. Notice the smells. And begin to dissolve that sense of boundary between you and that, because you aren't separate from that. Taking your meditation outside, which, we start to synchronize then with the energetic fields of the planet. And meditating with the elements is another way of doing that. That when you meditate with the elements, you are attuning. You're a tuning fork. You're being attuned to the vibrational energy of those elemental energies. Other kinds of possibilities is to begin to trust your intuition. We use that word intuition, which means an inner knowing. That's really what it means, an inner knowing. That sometimes, we tend to operate mostly from, this is what I think I should do, this is what I think I shouldn't do. What do you actually feel internally about whatever those possibilities are? For a long time, I couldn't even feel anything. If I had a big decision to make, I would just constantly be in this kind of ruminating, well, if I do this, then that's going to happen. If I don't do that, then that's going to happen. But like, what did I really feel was the right decision? I couldn't even begin to touch that. So beginning to just pause if you're in the point of having to make some big decision and feel into yourself. What do you know internally? And trusting that you actually do know something. And maybe that knowing is more true to what's needed than what you might think about it. And then, practices like mantra or visualization practices are practices of harnessing the energies of your own being and the energies of the world. So if you're chanting Tara's mantra, for example, behind me here, Om Tare Tutare Ture Svaha, you're harnessing the energy of compassion and protection from fear and aliveness of the natural world, because that's what she's associated with. I mean, she's an energetic form anyway, right? She's not a real being. She's an energetic manifestation of those innate energies that we possess. So mantra, visualization, these are just all things that we can do to enhance and develop this capacity. And then I'm going to leave you just with a quote from Dogen, Zen Master Dogen, because he just knows this so beautifully. Pervading throughout all these sounds and forms is a trail, far from words and ideas. Have you found it? If you wish to enter it, simply look and listen. Look with the whole body and mind. See with the whole body and mind. Listen and hear with the whole body and mind. And then you'll understand them intimately. That's the entry. To hear sounds with the whole body and mind, to see forms with the whole body and mind, one understands them intimately. And that word intimately in the Zen tradition is very specific. It means there's no more you and there's no more other. There's only one. There's only unification. We are that. Okay, that was enough, I'm sure. Probably more than enough. But I'd love to open it up for comments, thoughts, questions, and we'll go back and forth with folks online. I see some hands already online. So maybe we'll start online. Judith, are they unmuted? Can we hear them? Okay.
David, you can go ahead and unmute. Dave.
Thank you. I have a poor connection at my farm, so hopefully you guys can hear me and let me know if you can't. Elizabeth, I just wanted to thank you for this, the last two teachings you've given us. It's I as well identified as a young child with nature and the natural world, and it has continued throughout my life through various aspects. And I've always loved the interconnectedness study and analytical thinking of interdependency and its and all of its elements. And I am grateful that your teachings throughout the years I've been being taught by you and Lama Will and all the others at Natural Dharma have focused about connections to the real world and the subtle body and the world that's not always seen or heard or touched, but something different, because I've always associated with that. Before I took my vows with you and Lama Willa, I had a analytical meditation after a teaching I received from Thich Nhat Hanh, and during that meditation, I was connected to a tree that I was sitting and meditating next to, and felt the interdependence of the earth through my body and how my body is the earth with the air that the trees breathe and the minerals and the fungal networks underneath the trees. And for you to make those connections today, it just really furthers my interest in exploring more. And I've always appreciated the Tibetan Buddhist view of the world and how we can attach to it, and not attach to it, but how we can associate with it on a different level than just the self. So your teachings today have been wonderful, and I'm grateful that you brought them to all of us. And I just wanted to say thank you. And for others that are interested in the connection between the non-sentient world and the sentient world, I highly suggest taking up studying deep ecology, because there's a lot of crossovers there. And that's about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And
I hope.
thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And Anyone from Wonderwell?
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. I'm wondering if there's a study, or could there be a study with following humans from birth till 30 or something, who were born and raised in the city versus here. You know, I'm from here, and when I meet city people, I can see it, I can feel all the sensory things you're talking about and how we're different. We are different, though at the core there's still a sameness, but I feel a dissonance or something often with people from the city. Can anyone speak to that? Is there a study? I would love to read if there's a study, or let's do one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a specific study that's specifically about
or
that,
speaking
on that
to
topic. Yeah.
You know, if you are from the country, we all have friends all over the world, but city friends and country friends do people sense a difference in that relationship? The vibration
Right.
between us,
Right.
and how you see them in the world, struggling or not.
Right. Does anybody want to respond to that? Yeah, Phyllis. And we'll come back to you guys on screen too. Just give me 1 second. I see you up there.
I didn't think I was going to speak, but that sort of prompted me. I just sort of moved from the city, Newburyport, Mass, but it's a city, and having been from the country in Ireland, not a city, and grew up in the country, and then living my 38 years in America in that environment down there. And now for this past year, I've been up here, and it's incredibly different. I'm blown away in so many ways about the energy that's present in the country, whereas it's not present. I just see how my life has changed, my connection to nature, which has always been there, but out of touch. The groundedness that I find here, in touch with community at a whole different level. And I had friends down there, of course, and all of that, but it's a whole more authentic, open place, and people are more real, and they're less caught up in the external, in the materialism. And I was part of it, and I'm still sort of part of it, but I was very caught up with it and living a different kind of life, because you are in that environment. And it's not all of that, of course, but it's so that in so many ways. So I can just say it's so incredibly different and refreshing and energizing and stimulating to be back in the country.
Thank you. And there was a hand waving wildly from, yes, please.
Hey, Vicky. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Lama Liz. I have really enjoyed this morning's teachings. I think, let me see, what do I want to say? I'm still looking at you, Laura. How come I see you and not Liz?
We see you, and we see you.
I know, but I'm looking at this full screen of Laura instead of, I can't see Liz at all right now. Well, you're a thumbnail. But anyway, what did I want to say? Are we allowed to crosstalk? I mean, I was going to respond to the person who said feeling a difference, a dissonance when they met somebody who'd come to Wonderwell from the city. And I think what we're teaching here is that we are all one. We're all the same. So maybe try to look at it as simply difference, because it seems to me if dissonance comes in there, there's an inherent judgment or negativity to dissonance, but I could be wrong. That was a thought. The other thing that I originally wanted to say is that when you, and I don't mean this to be cautionary, or maybe I do, just to be prepared. For a long, long, long time, I have felt the beingness of the birds and the trees, and I talk to them all, and the squirrels, and that they are beings, and I am a being. I just am a different style of a being. And it's a wondrous feeling to be out in the world, or even in my house, and to know all of those beings out there. I've realized that the feelings I have when I look at certain rocks could be about their beingness without my being aware of that, like maybe that is what I'm feeling. But when you have that kind of openness, it also makes you vulnerable to grief because of what humans are doing to the world. We are, I think, at the moment, the ultimate invasive species. And there's a lot of members of this species that I like a whole lot, than I love, in fact, as much as I love the trees and the elephants and all the rest of them. But from a biological standpoint, or an ecological standpoint, we are the ultimate invasive species, and we've done a lot of harm. And like you said, without a change in that attitude, we continue to do a lot of harm. And just know that if you're going to be open to that, then you will feel all of that too. And then you have to find refuge in something. And maybe it's putting up bird feeders. I don't, whatever. We have to do a small part. So,
Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you. I don't think we get a pass on grief no matter what. I feel like that's part of being human. We don't get a pass on that. And it's a very, very powerful, transformative teacher. And maybe that's actually one of the catalysts to help us wake up, is if we really can feel the grief of the loss of our environments and our biodiversity and other species. It's a real impetus to change our patterns. I'm not sure we get a pass on that, no matter how sensitive or insensitive we might be. At some point, we're going to face the grief. Yeah, but thank you so much. Anyone else from in here? Barbara in front here has her hand up. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've loved meditating outside, especially lately, just really spending a lot of time in special places, and I connect much more easily. It's very enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And I do feel more connected. But my question is sort of relating to the city. Isn't the whole world? I mean, we're sort of separate. I don't have this quite articulated, but it's something I think about. Nature, you're sort of saying nature is different from the city. Human creation is different from a tree. I mean, yes, I prefer walking out by my brook and sitting, that's what I prefer, and looking, but isn't it all real? I mean, isn't it all just, if we're all oneness, could you not access those feelings in the middle? You can in a theater, a music form, with group, you can. So I'm not like arguing, but it's something I've wondered, like, isn't the Anthropocene real too?
Yes.
And,
yes, and
I mean, yes, and there's grief.
Yes.
Like what's happened anyway?
Yeah. No, Barbara, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And a really good thing to raise up, because I mean, I also don't want to give the impression that I'm trying to valorize the natural world over, you know, an urban environment per se. I mean, I think it might be easier for some of us to find this energetic immersion into reality through nature, only because there's less distraction from all the different things that we tend to do when we're in an urban environment, you know. But if we're going to talk about being immersed and at one in energetically with everything, it's with everything. You know, it's like we don't get to say, well, not that, well, this, but not that, right? So, I mean, and is the quality of energy that we are, you know, sort of working with or being immersed in different? Yes, I mean, obviously, yes. I think if you're, you know, standing in downtown New York, but I mean, how many of you have gone to New York and there's something like the energy of that in New York is so palpable, right? It's powerful, it's intense, and there's something almost exciting sometimes and fascinating, and like, you know, it's not inherently bad, it's just different. It's just different. But I think these practices are available anywhere. It's, you know, I'm not trying to say this is somehow bad and this is better at all. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I see another hand.
Go ahead, Christine.
I'm looking
Hi.
at. Hi.
Hi. Um, yeah, I just wanted to appreciate the your sort of invitation to stabilize, like that it's through kind of like stabilizing our own connection to being able to sense energy and interconnectedness in any situation that sort of allows us to extend that into the world and have it and sort of offer that energy field. And it made me think about environmental justice and access to the natural world. For me, it's easier to sort of relax enough to feel into interconnectedness and mutual life in nature. And so in that vein, I just wanted to give a shameless plug for an organization called Eagle Eye Institute that brings, in their language, underserved youth out into the land, like into forests. And I've been on their trips, and for a lot of these young people, it's like the first time they've been in the woods, and it's amazing what happens. And so the other thing I wanted to say is it doesn't take much. Like, it doesn't take a lot, because we're so innately keyed in to feel that interconnectedness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really beautiful to hear. And true.
Hi.
Hi.
You briefly talked about the fungal network within like the tree root systems. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Well,
If not, that's okay. But I was just
I mean,
wondering, like how it communicates, I guess, between the fungal and the root systems.
I mean, and I'm not an expert on this at all, but I'm trying to think of, there's a particular study. Yeah. Yeah, there's a documentary film. Fantastic Fungi. I'm just saying it so everybody can hear. Yeah, I was trying to remember that too. But there's been so many studies now of how the mycelial network that underlies the trees and the plants and everything is exchanging signals and information, is a carrier for that information from one tree to another, from one plant to another, and the ways that it's helping the ecosystem balance itself depending on the different environmental factors that are affecting the situation. So there is another, there is a book specifically around this. Oh, I can see the cover in my head. I'll see if I can find it and let you know. But yeah.
It just struck my interest because I think a lot of people see the trees and the plants, but they don't think about the decomposers, which is also a big part of the ecosystem,
Right.
the fungal network, the mold, you know, this kind of cycle of life and death, if you will, that the nutrients need to be decomposed to be
Correct. Right.
used
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So it just
I mean,
struck my
there's a
interest.
whole Dharma teaching right there.
Oh.
Really, like that's the big Dharma.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, everybody. One more? Yes. Oh, one more over here. Or Judith, were you going to say something too? Okay. Okay. Oh, you're gonna, right. Okay.
Thank you. This is my first time coming, and I just feel very connected already. I just wanted to share, I have the privilege and honor of working with infants and parents. And
yeah,
I'm
if you
sorry.
put it right up to your mouth.
Like
Yeah,
this?
it's kind of like an
Okay.
ice cream cone.
Okay, sorry. I have the privilege of working with infants and their parents, and have for a long time. And I feel like the innate connection and intuition that you see with infants is so telling about our nature, and I feel like we learn how to not do that as we grow up. But in working with infants, I know that myself, as well as nurses that I've worked with or families, if they're in a bad energy place, if they're sad or upset, that infant picks right up on it and really reacts to it and goes there energetically as well.
Right.
But also, I think the one thing that I very strongly saw over the past 30 years of working with mothers, particularly, sorry dads, but I've just seen it more with moms, the maternal instinct and gut instinct and intuition about how their child is doing, and how many times there would be something medically wrong with a baby that the doctors couldn't figure out, or poo-pooed, or said, no, this isn't a thing. And then it ended up being, and it was just the mother that really, her gut instinct was like, there is something wrong.
Right.
And there might not have even been anything that you could point to as a symptom or a scientific proof of this, but then it ended up being. So just, I feel like we innately have that intuition.
Right.
And we tune
Thank
it
you
out.
so much for sharing that. That's really, the more examples of that we find, the better. Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, we're gonna close for today, but I will be continuing this theme next month on the Dharma Sunday, on the open practice weekend, the third weekend in October. And what I'd like to do now is just dedicate the merit. And when we're talking about energy and releasing energy into the world, this is a way of just paying forward whatever benefit has come from our time together. And that's what a dedication of merit is for. So on the top of page 15, this is a dedication of sending out compassion and love. Changchup Semcho Rinpoche Ma che panam che jurchi che pa nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong ju pelwar sho. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are fully illumined and awakened. Thank you for coming, everybody. It's been great to be here with you. Please, Wonderwell folks, please stay for lunch, enjoy, and we'll see you all again.